Today, this is episode 82 of the Let's Talk Thyroid podcast. And if you know anything about essential oils, you may know my guest today, who is Scott A. Johnson. He is an author of over 15 books on the topic of natural health and essential oils. Grab a piece of paper and a pen. There's lots of content that we cover in this conversation, lots of essential oils recommended for particular things. But if you've never even used essential oils, stay tuned because he goes over the basics. And I think by the end, you'll get an appreciation of just how powerful essential oils can be used for our overall health and wellness. I'm going to put links to Scott's books in the description below in the show notes. They are Amazon affiliate links. It would be really helpful to me and to Scott if you use those links to purchase the books if you would like to buy any of his books, because the little bit that I'll earn as the affiliate will just go towards covering some of the costs associated with the Let's Talk Thyroid podcast, and obviously supporting Scott through purchasing his books is going to help him with his endeavors and also you in your deepening your knowledge and safe practice of essential oils. I want you to stick around to the end because I'm going to introduce something new called KISS Thyroid Coaching with a couple of coaching style questions to help you to apply what you have learnt. Enjoy. Well, welcome Scott Johnson to the Let's Talk Thyroid podcast. This is going to be a really fun conversation all about essential oils and natural solutions for thyroid health. I've been following you for a long time on Facebook, seen you live on stage actually in Salt Lake City. So it's a real honor to have you on the show today to share your wisdom, your knowledge, your research with my audience. So thank you for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's great to connect with you and have an opportunity to talk about what I think is a really important topic.
Yeah, well, we were just chatting before that we hit record, and you know, obviously for my listeners, I would say almost all, if not all, have a thyroid problem or know they do, but it's a really big problem, and there's lots and lots of different things that we can do, and that's really the heart behind my podcast, is to share hope and positive and practical solutions with people, because it's easier to get caught up in feeling miserable and just being told there's only one thing you can do, but that we know there's lots. So I
Absolutely.
think it's good. Yeah. So before we kind of dive right into it, we're going to focus our conversation on essential oils, but you've just written a recent book all about natural solutions for autoimmune thyroid conditions. And when I read it, I think of you and I think essential oils, and I read the book a weekend or two ago, and I'm like, oh, there is so much more in this book than just essential oils. So we might cover some of those other things, but we'll focus more on that. But I'm curious as to what got you into being, obviously passionate about natural solutions, essential oils. Like, how did you get into this space?
Yeah, I think my story is probably similar to many people who end up in natural health or looking at natural solutions, in that it was my own health journey. I got interested in it because my personal condition was not being really addressed properly with allopathic or Western medicine. Many years ago, I was diagnosed with a condition called ankylosing spondylitis. Most people don't know what that is because less than 1% of the adult population has it, but it's an autoinflammatory condition that causes severe pain in the spine and then can also affect a lot of different joints or even tissues, hearts, lungs, eyes. So that it's a very progressive thing. And the typical treatment pattern is to put somebody on a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug at first. And so that's what they did for me. And that just caused an additional problem, which caused my doctor to prescribe another medication for the problem that was caused. And I just thought, this is just crazy. It can't be the only way to manage this. And so I did my own research, and I was able to find some natural solutions that really helped me start to see big improvements. And after I did that, that got me excited because at the time I was in school. I was managing an organization, and I was in business management, and that's kind of what I thought that I was going to spend the rest of my career in. But that got me so excited in natural health that I decided, no, that I have a different path. And that was natural health. And so I started to take classes until I earned a doctorate in naturopathy. And then as far as getting into the essential oils, it was during that doctorate that kind of got me into it, because they did one class on essential oils during my doctorate, but they lumped them in with Bach flower remedies. And they said, these are the most potent extracts from plants that you can get. Essential oils are. But then out of that same talk came, but they mainly are there to smell and influence your emotions. And that statement seems so contradictory to me. I'm going, well, if you're telling me these are the most potent plant extracts, but all I can do is smell them and influence my emotion, it made absolutely no sense. And so that's what got me into really wanting to study further about essential oils and look at the research and see what they can actually do.
Yeah, well, and you've written lots and lots of essential oil books. You're prolific. Let's just say you're a prolific writer. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, no, it's kind of almost an addiction for me. I really love it.
Are you working on the next book?
Just finishing that last one. I'm not. I kind of, about 3 books ago, I actually thought I might be done writing, and I keep getting inspired to write new things. So maybe the next thing will come up and inspire me to write another thing.
Yeah. So why thyroid? Why write it? All the books that you've written. Why now? Why thyroid?
Yeah. It was my own experience with post-viral Hashimoto's. And through an annual physical, I saw some abnormal thyroid hormone levels. I was grateful that my healthcare professional included that, because not all healthcare professionals will do a full thyroid panel as part of an annual
very
physical.
Few will, unless you really demand of it. Yeah.
Right. And he did that. And they send me the results before I get a chance to review them with the doctor. And I saw it immediately. I went, oh my gosh, I have Hashimoto's. And so, and that's exactly what he confirmed when I went back to him. But, before I went back to him, I want to start attacking this with natural solutions right now, because I know that the sooner you get involved in natural solutions, the better your results. And as I started to really research and find what the natural solutions were from an evidence-based perspective, I thought, I want to help other people who experience this too. So let's write a book and let's put all this information so nobody else has to take this time to go through all the research that I did, and they'll just have it right there at the touch of their fingertips, and they can start helping to manage their condition naturally. Yeah.
So, well, and it is full of, full of the research, I think the list of references is pages. So that's certainly what I found, not being like, I'm not a scientist, I'm not medically qualified. But I love it when there are other people doing that, because we all, I think for people like me, we want to know that the evidence is out there to support what we, do and try, and so it's not, and I think that's where, for people like you who are right all over all of that, the research, and know how to read the papers and interpret them properly. That's really a gift to the thyroid community, because not everybody has those skills. So, And so one of the things you just said was you were able, you knew that kind of in order to deal with your thyroid health naturally, that the sooner you got in, the better. Does that, so if we kind of talk generally, because I often have people say, look, I want to manage my thyroid health naturally, or can I just use essential oils specifically instead of medication? Like, how do I, or I don't want to go down that medical, the medication path. Maybe can you just sort of set the scene for us? Like, what are your views on that? Does it depend on when things are diagnosed? Like, what, have you got a general view on that?
Yeah, I think you can absolutely manage your condition naturally. Natural solutions, though, they work differently than drugs. Instead of trying to stop symptoms, which are truly an outward expression of your body taking corrective actions because of the condition you have. They work with the body to support its many systems designed to keep us in a healthy state. And really their job is to remove roadblocks that might be interfering with these processes. But you're absolutely right that it does depend on your current status, how long you have had the condition, how far it's progressed, and the extent of damage that's already occurred to the thyroid gland. So that's why I said in the beginning, I knew that the sooner I implemented natural solutions, the better my outcome was going to be. And that's the same across the board for anybody else who's seeking a natural solution. It doesn't mean that if you've had it for a long time and it's progressed that there's no hope, because I have seen some pretty miraculous things happen with natural solutions. But it just is, it's just reasonable to know that you're going to have better outcomes the sooner you start to implement these natural solutions.
Yeah, which is, I suppose, goes back to, it's helpful if you got a doctor like yours that does that full thyroid panel early on or on a regular basis for those sort of annual checkups, because yeah, we know that Hashimoto's can be 7 years in the making, really. We can have antibodies for, I think it's 7 years before it can show up in thyroid gland dysfunction. So I think, gosh, that's a lot of years of destruction that is unnecessary.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important if you have a family history of it, that you should be asking, insisting that your healthcare professional does that panel as you're an adult, and so that you can watch and monitor that and catch it early.
So what do you put in the natural solutions category? Like what are the types of natural solution remedies that, when you're talking natural solutions, that you would be including?
Yeah, natural solutions can include anything from nutrition and exercise to herbal extracts to dietary supplements that are maybe minerals or vitamins to essential oils. So really anything that works with the body to help it get these normal processes working at a healthy rate to keep us in a state of homeostasis and to support thyroid function.
So sort of almost anything other than a synthetic, medication. Yeah,
that's kind of where it draws the line is we've got to use something from a natural perspective, and natural, it's anything involving your lifestyle too. It can be how you manage stress and emotions, and the way that, how much sleep are you getting? Are you getting restorative sleep? And are you trying to minimize your exposure to toxins? And then if you do have toxins, are you doing something to help your body eliminate them? So it's lifestyle mixed with plant medicine, really.
Yeah, it's quite holistic, really, isn't it? It's, there's no one, I don't think, and I mean, correct me if you disagree, but it's never just one thing. It's not just one element. And I think that's where, like medication, like I'm on thyroid medication. I was diagnosed when I was 23. I think by that point, my thyroid gland was already quite destroyed. And I've been on thyroid medication for, I don't know, I'm now 48. So, whatever that is, a long time. But so I'm a big advocate for, like, if you need medication, you need medication, but there's a lot of other things you can do as well. And it's part of this whole big diet lifestyle. There's never just one. There's no one magic thing.
No, I completely agree. It's a mistake to assume that only one thing can correct the condition. And one of the things that I really don't like to hear from somebody is they come in and they say, I've got X condition and I'm taking X medication. What can I do to substitute for that? And I just, that's not going to work. You've got to actually look at your whole lifestyle, and we've got to make some adjustments so that we're not going to get back in this situation or make your condition worse, because all we're doing is trying to get rid of a symptom rather than going to the core of what's happening.
It's a different paradigm, really, isn't it? And I think when we've grown up in that Western medical model where, one thing, one solution, or maybe there's a couple of different, solutions, but all down a similar path. Yeah. We sort of put that into the natural health space and think, what's that? One essential oil blend or one supplement, or what's that? It's a good way of putting it. It's a different, yeah. So let's dive into essential oils as one of those many tools in the toolkit. And, you know, you're the essential oil expert. So tell us, people that are listening to this, not everyone, some people may never have heard of essential oils. You know, some would be avid users. I would say across my listenership, there's a probably pretty broad range, but most are open to diet and lifestyle, you know, options. So could you just give us a brief introduction? Like, what are they? Are they kind of just hippie woo-woo, just used for inhalation, or, you know, what are they? How do we use them? Just the basics to start with.
Yeah, essential oils are potent volatile extracts from plants, and they are really what drives the aroma of the plants that you smell. So if you were to go to a fresh peppermint plant and you were to rub the leaves, you're obviously going to release that breaks some of the sacs that are inside the plant and releases these essential oils, and you're going to smell that aroma. Essential oils are most commonly extracted via steam or hydrodistillation. And kind of, I mentioned earlier, they work within the body in a similar manner that they function in plants. They primarily defend, heal, and help us thrive. Because of their really low molecular weight and their attraction to lipids or fats, they have the ability to attract to cellular membranes, which are made up of lipids, and to cross those membranes and barriers to such as the blood-brain barrier, even to places where other solutions may struggle to get to. And they once there, they can attach to cellular receptors. They can interact with enzymes and proteins. They can stimulate pathways to correct problems and promote overall wellness. As far as how you use them, essential oils are primarily used in three ways: aromatically, topically, and orally. Aromatically is obviously inhaling the essential oils, and that can be done through various ways, from a diffuser to just simply putting them on your hands and inhaling from your hands. Or it can be put on a cotton ball. There's various different ways. Topically, which we will apply to a more targeted location. And then orally for some essential oils, which you can put inside an empty veggie cap, or there are sometimes pre-made soft gels that already contain the essential oils, or even some of the milder ones can be put on or directly on the tongue. So that's kind of how a little really brief explanation of essential oils and how we use them.
Yeah. And so when we're talking about essential oils for thyroid support, is it different if we're talking about the thyroid gland itself? And obviously with thyroid health, it's a whole body experience or whole body, multi-system health issue. So are there essential oils that, if we talk, maybe break it down, like if we're talking about the thyroid gland itself, how would essential oils help support the thyroid gland?
Yeah, one of the things that I'm excited about, and I hope that this research continues into clinical research and that this oil becomes more readily available, but many of us are probably familiar with black cumin as either the seed itself or the fixed oil that you can get, and many people might even be consuming that. But there's some very promising research for the essential oil extracted from black cumin seeds, which has shown a balancing activity for the thyroid. And unfortunately, it's hard to find commercially right now. So that's why I say I hope that it becomes more available and people start to really research it further. But that leaves us with then what's been traditionally used, or what we've found to work through clinical experimentation. And some of the most common ones used for the thyroid and to support healthy thyroid function include myrtle and nutmeg and myrrh. And then oils that help balance the activity of immune cells, because if you have an autoimmune attack, you want to balance your TH responses. Then and also support a healthy inflammatory response. Then there's things like Himalayan or Atlas cedarwood, German chamomile, copaiba, and lavender. Those are great ones, just kind of for overall thyroid and inflammatory support. But then I could say you could get a little bit more granular, like if you want to have improved sleep because your thyroid gland is significantly involved in your sleep cycle. And many people find that they have disrupted or non-restful sleep when they have a thyroid condition. So you can diffuse things like lavender and vetiver or citrus and wood oils before and while you're sleeping. Those are great options. Sometimes there's different aches and discomfort that we're going to feel when our thyroid's not working properly. So there's a whole host of essential oils to use there, like wintergreen, peppermint, rosemary, frankincense, copaiba, ginger, lavender, eucalyptus, marjoram, basil.
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
German chamomile, black pepper. I mean, it really goes on and on. So the key with that is we're going to apply those topically to wherever we're experiencing that discomfort. And we want to mix it with some carrier oil. My personal experience is that you want to be between about 5 and 25% for that, and maybe 15 is the sweet spot. And so that's what I'd say for that. And then
15% essential oils, the rest carrier oil.
Correct. Yeah. And then there actually was a clinical study done on people with hypothyroidism for the fatigue that comes with that. And what they did is inhaled peppermint, black pepper, clove, grapefruit, and bergamot as a blend. And they inhaled that over the course of a few weeks. And the interesting thing was that they didn't really find great effects during the first 2 weeks. But then once the second week ended and the third week began, they really started to see results and people started to experience less fatigue. So it's telling us that, you maybe don't give up. You try it once and say, oh, it didn't work, so I'm going to, cross that off and go on to the next thing. Give it a good try and allow it to have an opportunity to affect your body, because it took months, maybe even years for the thyroid condition to develop. More likely it's going to be years. And so we need to make sure that we're not just saying one day and it doesn't work. Give it more time than that. And then last, I really love frankincense for dealing with autoimmunity itself, because the preclinical research is showing that frankincense is an immune balancing essential oil that helps to promote immune tolerance through interactions with immune cells that regulate immune responses. And the other thing is it's a great mild oil. So it's mild enough that you can just put that one directly into your mouth on or under the tongue, once or twice daily. And I think I'd probably be remiss if I didn't mention copaiba as another one that's great to do the same thing on or under the tongue, because of its ability to bind to CB2 receptors in the endocannabinoid system, which are found in significant numbers in the immune system. And so copaiba should be able to significantly interact with the immune system and support a healthy immune response there as well.
So would that help with, say, lowering thyroid antibodies? Is that sort of maybe indirectly? Like, is that when you're talking about modulating the immune system and that sort of the thyroid immune response often reflected in the antibodies, would you expect to see a decline in that, or is it not the right mechanism?
Yeah, I would say yes, because you're reducing the attacks on the immune system, and that's correlates with the antibodies the autoantibodies that are present. And so I think you could see actually a decline in the autoantibodies that to the thyroid with balancing immune activity.
That's pretty exciting, really, isn't it? And
it is.
Yeah, that there are natural solutions out there, and they work.
They do. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the questions that that came up in the group is, can you use oils like the actual herbs infused in a carrier oil, either instead of, or like, do they work effectively like essential oils? What do you think about that?
Yeah, so I think that it's important that we look at all the tools in our toolbox, that we don't just look at one thing. We kind of talked and had a little bit of a discussion about that. Don't focus on one different tool. So I think it's important to include some herbal options as well. I would say that if you're going to use herbs and mix those into an oil and make an infusion, that they won't be as potent as an essential oil, but they still will have an effect because a lot of the activity of herbs is driven by essential oils and then other phytonutrients or phytocompounds that are contained within the herb itself.
Mm. And I suppose then it's even cooking with the oils or, I mean, with the herbs or, I often think just add ginger to everything, ginger and turmeric. They haven't come up. I don't think you've mentioned those. Are they ones? I mean, they're just I guess, spices that I would use regularly in my cooking. I like the essential oils as well. But it's just using them in our regular cooking. Is that helpful as well?
I think so. If you're using the fresh herbs, because they're going to contain some of those essential oils. That's why that you get the aroma from those herbs. So I think that you definitely can. And those are good essential oils too. Ginger is one that I really like topically, ginger essential oil topically for discomfort and aches. Turmeric is good for that as well. It's just a lot of people don't like the smell. It's a very earthy, almost a burnt smell. And so that may be a turnoff for some people, but the herbs are great to use.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, like, if someone's listening and they've never tried essential oils before, and we've already, just talked about, I don't know, 20 or so far. Like, where do you suggest people, like, if we're in this context of thyroid support, someone's got, say, Hashimoto's and they're like, oh, maybe I could add essential oils into my natural solutions toolkit. Have you got like a top, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 that you would recommend, or like how do you recommend someone would start?
Yeah, those are always the hardest questions when people try and tell me what 3, 4, or 5 can you use? Because when I wrote my first essential oil book, I initially wanted to only recommend 20 oils in it. And by the time I was done writing it, it was 40. So I doubled what I wanted.
Yeah.
But if I want to look at for thyroid conditions,
and starting place, because I think, we all end up, like, I've got lots, but there's still, you can add to your collection over time. That's what I often say to people. So, but if you buy 20 to start with, you'll probably use none. Yeah. So this is all overwhelming.
If I'm going to say the 5 that I would want people to start with, then I would probably say it's going to be frankincense and copaiba, lavender, peppermint, and then you could choose your favorite citrus. It could be lemon, it could be orange, could be lime, but I'd want a citrus oil in there too.
And would you use those as a blend, or would each one of those serve a different, or be used differently?
Some of them might be used together, like frankincense and copaiba, or peppermint with the copaiba topically for aches. But I think that for the most part, I would use them differently. Like lavender, I would probably diffuse with my citrus oil at night for the better sleep. And so I would use each one of them either as usually a couple oils, but most likely not all of them together at one time.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people, if you go Googling essential oils for thyroid, you'll see lots of roller recipes to roll on your thyroid. And I probably started there, and I made lots of mistakes when I first started using essential oils, like, you should use them with a carrier oil. And I'm like, well, just go hard or go home. And I didn't do that. And, I made lots of mistakes. And put undiluted blends of essential oils over my thyroid and got all sorts of skin reaction.
Right.
Very irritated. And I have to be very careful now I find it diluted in my facial oil, like it's quite diluted. Like I'll put essential oils in there for a variety of, skin, face, but thyroid, and cover this area. But the actual roller, typical kind of roller recipes that you see out there online, for me, I think because I did all the wrong things
Yeah.
to start with, what weren't helpful. But, do you, what's your view on using an essential oil roller over your thyroid? And how should we do it if we're going to do it? How do we do it properly and not the way I did it?
Yeah, I think it's a good option for a targeted solution.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. Dilution is important, not only for reducing that irritation, but also improving efficacy, because I think it's a little bit, most people think, well, if I use a neat oil with no carrier oil, then that's going to make it stronger and it's going to work better. But the reality is that because essential oils are volatile aromatic compounds, by not putting a carrier oil, you actually can have a lot of evaporation occur. And so a lot of it just flashes off and doesn't actually maintain contact with the skin long enough for you to absorb through the layers of the skin and into the bloodstream. So dilution reduces this evaporation process, which maintains longer contact with the skin and therefore improves absorption and efficacy. So I think roller bottles are a great solution, because then you can already have the carrier oil mixed in with your essential oils at a proper dilution, ready to go. You can just roll it on and it makes it easy for application, and you will use it more regularly if you have a roller bottle.
And again, would you be looking at that sort of 15% sweet spot dilution?
I would say probably a little bit less over the thyroid, only because you need higher for like aches and discomfort. So that 15% is more for aches and discomfort. If I'm going to roll it on the neck can be a little bit more sensitive skin. Then I would say a sweet spot would be more like 5% around there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, which is probably a lot less than a lot of the recipes I've seen floating out around there. And that's probably, the danger. And I guess there's lots of good things about, the internet, and then there's some, some dangerous things too. And I think, oh my gosh, like this has got like in a little 10 ml bottle, like, I don't know, 60, 80, 100 drops of oil. I think, oh, that sounds like a lot. Yeah. And I think I have this sort of theory that often those of us with autoimmune thyroid conditions tend to be that, fairly, I call it a thyroid personality, but, overachieving, hard, goal setting, that kind of type A, go hard, go home. And so the whole idea of using small amounts of essential oil just somehow doesn't we're not good at that. We want to just go all in. Like if we're going to do something, we're going to go all into it. And so I think it's a good lesson that with essential oils, we need to be gentle. Like they work, it's a gentle thing.
It is. And remember, they're very potent plant extracts. So mixing them with a carrier oil it does reduce the intensity, but it doesn't necessarily, it improves efficacy, which is a little bit counterintuitive, because you wouldn't think that was the case. Yeah,
that's a good reminder, because, and I think when we don't really know, and obviously that's where, talking to someone like you that's done, you're all over all the research, they're different. It's a different type of mechanism, isn't it?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So I want to ask a couple of other questions about some of the other sort of natural solutions, but is there anything about essential oils that I haven't asked you that you think is important in this thyroid context?
I would just say have a good reference book, because essential oils can be overwhelming, because there's at least 300 that have been commercialized and are available commercially. So that's a lot. And when you look at the sheer number of them, you may go, I don't even know what to do with these. That's why it's good to start with a small number and get familiar with those. Really focus on what they do and how they can benefit you and how you can incorporate them into your daily life, and then have a good reference book that will help you know how to use them for various different challenges that you're going to expect to have throughout your life.
And one of the things I didn't ask was, in terms of hyperthyroidism or Graves, is there a difference? I know essential oils can be balancing out, but are there different essential oils that you would use or not use in the Graves or hyper context?
Yeah, typically I would use very similar, if not the same ones, because what we're trying to do is to support healthy thyroid function, healthy immune balance, a healthy inflammatory response. And we're just trying to help the systems within the body that are already set up to do all those things with these solutions. And the same solutions or same essential oils will work for both Graves or a Hashimoto's condition.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's sort of interesting, isn't it, that you can end up with quite different or sort of opposite ends of the problem, but same solutions and similar pathways to ending up with different problems. Yeah.
For sure.
And so aside from essential oils, like when you looking at, your book all about natural solutions for thyroid health has a plethora. So I'll make sure I link to that book and get yourself a copy. And it's not long. Like, that's what I enjoyed. It was, it was easy to read. It wasn't long, but jam packed. It was like every sentence was like jam packed full of, evidence. It's practical. You give lots of, recipes and doses, and, it's not like, you're really quite specific, which I think is really helpful. So if you're listening, go grab a copy of Scott's book. But in terms of some of those other natural solutions, what would be the key ones that, again, if you're starting out, like, that you would need to kind of delve into?
Yeah, well, the foundations of your health are nutrition and movement. And so you've got to get those sorted out first. You'll get better results from any essential oils or supplements that you decide to incorporate if you feed your body right and you move it. Then I would say supplementation would probably be the next important thing. Holistically, you need to consider all aspects of your health and make the necessary lifestyle adjustments, because you can't work on just one aspect of your well-being and expect everything to be corrected. You can see some results from making one positive change, but to really make an impact and realize greater wellness, you should make multiple lifestyle changes and consider sleep, stress, toxins, and much, much more.
In terms of diet, like, is there, I've heard lots of different mixed things about, diet for thyroid health, but from a research, point of view, is there a particular diet that people with autoimmune thyroid conditions should follow, or certain foods that we should avoid? Like,
yeah, I would say it depends on the individual, because everybody is biologically unique and is going to have a different effect by the foods that they eat. We're actually to the point in medicine now that you can go and get a genetic testing to see what foods are going to be best for you and what ones might not be so good for you. And it's more reasonable and affordable now. It's a couple $100 usually to go and run this panel that can help you identify things that might be triggers for you and things that would be better for you to consume. So I don't say there's a single diet that people should follow, but there's definitely some things we should be aware of, that there are foods that can maybe cause further inflammation or damage to the thyroid, as well as certain foods that may contribute to some gut dysfunction that might contribute to the autoimmune cascade. So we need to be aware of these things. And if we do find that we have a sensitivity or there's a food that's a trigger for us, then we would personalize that and adjust to take that out, or maybe eat a lot less of it.
So be more about going and do those individual screenings so that for yourself. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and I've actually done that personally, and it kind of just it cemented what I kind of already had worked out with just my own experience with the foods I've eaten. But I think intuitively a lot of us can be able to tell that we'll eat something and we just don't feel too good, and so that can be a good indicator of we maybe need to eliminate or reduce the times we're eating that particular food.
Yeah. So tune in to your own body too, and trust your intuition.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. And so when it comes to supplements, oh my gosh, that's like a multi-billion-dollar minefield, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
So is that another case of, test for deficiencies, or do you recommend people take a general kind of coverall supplement, or the particular supplements that are typically needed for a thyroid patient?
Yeah, there definitely are some things that just about anybody could benefit from. A multivitamin or multi-nutrient with vitamins and minerals in it is almost a necessity these days. Our food just is not as healthy as it used to be. Here in the United States, our U.S. Department of Agriculture has been tracking the nutrients in our most nutrient-dense foods, like our fruits and vegetables, since the 1960s. And you can watch a steady decline in many of the most key nutrients that we need. I would also say that the majority of the world's population is at least subclinically deficient or has insufficient levels of vitamin D if they're not deficient. So vitamin D is one of the most important things that just anybody could take, but specifically for thyroid function, yes, there are some things that can definitely help to work to support our body, because we're really trying to focus on immune balance, in reducing the inflammatory cascade, and then supporting thyroid function, as well as reducing autoantibodies that are going to be present. And you do have groups of supplements that can work for each one of those aspects and help. One real quickly to just mention would be selenium. And selenium has great research to back it to help get rid of those autoantibodies that are targeting thyrocytes to be destroyed and damaged. And so that's a great one for people to be aware of, that has a lot of good benefits.
Yeah, I was just thinking, as you're talking and sort of reflecting back where we started the conversation, which was, that the sooner you get in and start managing this sort of holistic approach that we've been talking about, the better. And so if someone's wanting to manage their thyroid health naturally without going down the medication path, and I suppose whether they get in soon enough or not, it's hard, that's going to be an individual thing. But would there be a reasonable, like if someone went to their doctor and said, look, I want to try, okay, I know you've just told me I've got Hashimoto's, and my thyroid function is out. I want to manage this naturally. How about I try natural solutions for 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? Like, what would be sort of a reasonable period to see how that's working for you?
I would say you would probably ideally want to have at least 3 months. So somewhere between 3 and 6 months to try these, because remember that natural solutions are removing roadblocks and helping to support normal functions within the body. And so they are going to take a little bit longer to correct. And that's why we need to be somewhat patient. And it can take a couple of months for you to start seeing results. My own healthcare professional was more than happy to allow that. And he gave me 6 months. And then we're going to, test my thyroid levels again in 6 months so that he can see where we're at and see what's happening. But I can tell you already that I'm already feeling a difference without even having the blood test. So.
Yeah, right. Wow. So you're still within that 6 months.
Yep. I still have about 4 or 5 weeks before we go in and see what that 6 months is going to look like. So.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's exciting. I think it's exciting when you're making changes. I'm a sort of a big advocate for, test, well, not too regularly, but obviously regularly, because then you can see, I've made these changes and it is helping, or it's not, or I need to tweak something else. But if you're only getting tested even once a year, it's just not enough. Like, I don't know. Again, I'm not that medical person, but as a patient, maybe that's my controlling. I want to be in control of my own. Well, I'm not in control of my own health really, but I want to know that what I'm doing is making a difference or not, so that I can make those tweaks sooner. So I think that'll be fun for you to see the results.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, but I think that's good because even if you're on thyroid medication, they say it takes at least sort of 6 weeks. So that 3 to 6 month period. So if you're listening and you're wanting to do that, maybe that's something you can talk to your healthcare provider with
Right.
about. Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, Scott, I think this has been a really fun conversation. You are a wealth of knowledge. Is there anything else that you'd like to tell people about? Offer any last words of wisdom or hope?
I think that word hope was what came to my mind. I have hope because your cells, they are more connected to your emotions than you know. Science has taken us to the point now where we can see that our emotions can literally adapt cellular receptors and the way our cells function and behave. And so have hope, know that there is hope, and it's not a lost cause, that you can manage things naturally if you put in the effort. And it's not something, just swallow something or put something on. It is effort. You've got to put in the effort, and you've got to look at your lifestyle and what you can do to support your body in its desire to bring you to a state of wellness. And once you start supporting that, that's when you get into that higher quality of life and things, you see the improvements you're hoping for.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. It is effort, and it does take time. There are no quick fixes, but yeah, there's hope. And I think that our body wants to heal. Like, our bodies are designed to heal. I like the way you sort of put that too. Well, Scott, is there? I will link to your books and your website and everything in the description once this is released. But where would you like people to connect with you? Like, what's the best spot for people to connect if they want to learn more about you or follow you along? What's the best place to do that?
Yeah, if there's a couple of places I would recommend. My largest community is on Facebook, and so you can just look for me, Scott A. Johnson, and find me there. And we have a community of over 50,000 people who love essential oils and natural solutions. So that's a great place to connect, especially if you're one that wants to see regular research, because I post in that usually at least 6 times a week, some new research on essential oils. And then I do have a website that I have some blog articles and a little bit more information about my story on authorscott.com. So those are 2 places you can connect with me.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you very much for your time today. I know that, the listeners will have really learned something. I always learn from my guests, so I've learned a few things just to store away there and apply to my own thyroid health and essential oil use. So, thank you very much for your time today.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
So, like I said at the beginning, stick around for a minute or two, because I'm going to introduce a little section at the end of each podcast that's called KISS Thyroid Coaching. So KISS is keep it super simple. Really, if we're not implementing the things that we're learning, then it's not really going to benefit us all that much. So I'm going to just come up with a couple of questions to help you to think through what you've just heard and maybe, and hopefully apply it to your life. So I don't know about you, but as I re-listened to that conversation that I had with Scott, I took 4 pages of notes. So that's some of how I learn, is to make notes as I'm listening. That really helps me to understand things better. And so I've got lots of great information now about different essential oils and things to use. So maybe if you've been listening to this walking around or cooking dinner or in your car and you haven't been able to make some notes, then maybe that's number one thing you could do, is go back, and even if you just skip through or listen at double time, and when you get to the section that he's giving some specific help about essential oils, grab your pen and write those things down. So that would be number one. If you haven't made some notes, make some notes. Number 2 will be to pick, this is assuming you're already using essential oils. So if you are already using essential oils, if there's anything that he's talked about that you haven't tried, then why not give that a go? For me, I am going to make an effort to put a drop of frankincense and a drop of copaiba essential oils under my tongue at least once a day. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to move them both into the bathroom. Actually, I've got frankincense there already, but the copaiba I'll move into my bathroom and put them right next to my toothbrush with all my supplements so they become part of that daily routine, because that's not something that I'm currently doing. So I'm going to give that a go. But for you, it might be something completely different, because we talked about, oils for sleep and aches and pains, as well as the thyroid gland. Maybe you want to make up a thyroid roller, just remembering those dilutions that he talked about. But if you don't have essential oils and you, after this conversation, you're curious and you want to get started, and remember Scott gave 5 essential oils that if he was going to pick 5 to start somewhere, that's where he picked. So I would encourage you, why not give them a go? Give essential oils a go. If you need help, just please make sure that you're buying really top therapeutic grade essential oils. Please don't be buying them from Kmart or, I don't know, in America, if they Walmart or somewhere like that. But, you don't want to be buying them through, mass produced places like that. If you've got a friend that uses essential oils, maybe have a chat to them. You're welcome to reach out to me privately, and I can connect you up with essential oils that I use. But yeah, if you haven't given them a go, give them a go. Even if you start with those 5 that he talks about, I think that is an excellent place to start. Just pick one thing, whatever it is you're going to do. Make notes, pick an essential oil that you haven't used that he talked about that you'd like to give a go. Or number 3, get started with essential oils if you haven't already. So that's my little KISS thyroid coaching session at the end. We'll see how this goes. We'll give it a bit of a trial. Let me know what you think. Is it helpful to have a couple of questions at the end? Is it not helpful? Let me know, because that would be helpful to me to know if it's something that it's worth continuing or not. But anyway, have a fabulous time exploring your world of essential oils and maybe something new. I think that's always a fun thing to do. Alrighty, bye. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Let's Talk Thyroid. If you have enjoyed the content, or perhaps you're thinking, oh, my mum needs to hear this, or my sister or my bestie, I would love it if you would share this episode with them. That really just helps spread the positive and practical message of Let's Talk Thyroid, and helps that broader thyroid community, our friends and family, to live well with their thyroid health. So you can just, share the episode. If you subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast, it's free. It's really helpful, because then you'll be notified every time a new podcast comes out, and it just makes it much easier to find. There's usually a little subscribe button or a bell, or follow often is the terminology. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, that would be helpful. Of course, if you want to leave a review, even better, just a sentence or 2 about how the podcast has helped you. You can definitely connect with me via letstalkthyroid.com. That's where you'll find access to my book, my coaching, my freebies, and really everything that I offer in terms of thyroid support.